He's trying. Are you a travel? Are you a travel boy? Do you like to travel?
I used to be, not
Okay.
anymore.
Well.
Before COVID.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Well,
not
I'm
even
not.
because of COVID. I'm just old now, so I don't do
Oh
anything.
no. Uh-oh. We're gonna
Okay.
have to put you
Well,
in the
at
ground
least,
soon.
at least he.
Was that a threat, Logan, or was that a promise?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Box of Four podcast. Today we have a very special guest joining us, Dr. Mike Kim, an esteemed professor of philosophy here with us today. Mike was our philosophy teacher last semester, and we are very excited for him to join us today. Today's main point of discussion will be simulation theory, and in the middle, we'll have a little game of Would You Rather again. I'm Kai.
I'm Finn.
I'm Logan.
I'm Chase.
Like,
All right, so I guess to kick us off, I will explain, what I mean by simulation theory. So, I'm guessing most people have seen The Matrix at this point in their life. But if they haven't,
I saw
basically, the concept of the movie is that these people are living in a simulation. And one of the people living in the simulation has an opportunity to leave the simulation and then go do some stuff outside the simulation, blah, 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 whatever. And today we're going to be discussing the idea that our own universe or own world that we exist in is a simulation. And I guess to start us off, I think one of the best things to discuss would be our current technology in the simulation field. I mean, as it goes, some video games are already kind of hard to discern from real life. Who's to say that in 30 years from now, we will not be able to tell any difference from, like, video games, for example, from real life?
So you thinking like VR? Because like I can tell pretty easily if I'm playing like Office Simulator or Job Simulator that I'm not IRL. Because that stuff, like, so are you talking like just like normal games in general, like your traditional FPS graphics are getting better, or
I mean, yeah, but I mean, you can think about it this way. Like a screenshot from like Forza Horizon 5 can look almost
That's
identical
fair.
to a real life
that's
taken
true.
picture of a car.
Yeah.
And while we might be able to tell that we're looking at a computer screen for a little while, we might not know that what is on that screen is real life or being simulated.
Mm, I
But
get.
do you think it's as easy to like like discern like if let's say you're going to like a VR or like a 3D virtual reality, you
Hmm.
think it's going to be easy like you can tell like if you play Super Hot for example, which is a VR game that
Yeah.
exists in VR, you can tell it's less realistic when you're in the VR headset because the images are like distorted and stuff. Do you think it will be more difficult to convert an image like say from Forza Horizon 5 into something like 3D? And do you think we have the technology to make it that accurate still in 3D? Or do you think it's just going to take some amount of time for that to happen?
That's a good question. I want to say that technology obviously isn't there yet, but I have a feeling that depending on how especially the technology of like optics and screens go, we very soon could possibly be like inserted into a 3D representation of a like 2D screen almost.
Yeah, but I don't. I don't think that's right because we still can't like simulate like touch or smell or taste or anything, and I don't even think that's like gonna be realistically possible in 30 years. I mean,
It could be.
Well, I mean, one thing we learned
oh,
about in Dr. Kim's class or Mike's class was that it's like it might be possible to manipulate certain parts of the chemical mind. So, do you think it's possible that you could just skip the middleman and like skip actually recreating some kind of feeling or recreating some kind of taste or smell or whatever and like going right to the neural impulses that
I feel like
control
you
that?
could.
Well, actually, I do want to comment, at least as it goes to taste. Very recently, prototypes of lickable TV screens
What?
no
are
way,
like
no.
in the works.
No
I'm
What?
not
way.
licking my TV screen.
Like,
What?
What?
No.
I'm just saying, and I'm just like, this is very new, and I'm not super
Give
expert
my
at this, but it
Samsung a
says
big old
that
smooch.
this TV can It can imitate the flavor, 10 different flavor combinations to get a
That's
desired
it?
effect.
That's it, bro?
Well, I
You can
mean,
only
yeah, Logan,
simulate
this
10, bro? I can
It's a
smell more than that.
prototype.
I
It's a
can lick more than
prototype.
that.
My gosh. So, Mike,
a-
what do
Not
you
even
think
close.
about licking your TV screen?
I would like to do that right now.
You don't already do that?
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a good
He
point.
said
Like,
so.
when a Taco Bell commercial comes on, and they're showing you those like amazing quesalupas or whatever they call them. No, I mean we don't even need like VR technology to do that. Like, if you watch like those videos on YouTube where people are having brain surgery, you can like poke at the brain and people will be like, "Oh, I'm tasting strawberries," or something like this. And like that's basically like the whole premise behind the Matrix that Kai brought up, right? That like if you just manipulate the brain directly, then you can like have all these sensations and experiences that aren't like really happening.
So is
Right.
that like what
Okay.
the giant plug in the back of their head is? You think
Yeah.
that's what it manipulates? Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because the brain is really
Okay, okay.
powerful.
Yes.
Yeah. For
I
sure.
guess if we wanted to truly do something like that, though, we'd have to get a much broader understanding and mapping of the brain. Because I think that's one of the
True.
main limitations right now is mapping the brain is extremely difficult because when someone dies, you can't map the brain, and not too many people like to give up their brain and time for scientists to poke around at it, see what happens.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
and they're like
yeah.
the little like sections they take are so small that it like fills up too much storage too. Like you could never have like a really good mapping of the brain just because we just don't have the storage capacity.
Like
Yeah.
beyond our current level of storing data.
Yeah, yeah, it's like millions of terabytes. I don't know how much it is, but
So,
whatever.
do you think just like if we were able to simulate a human brain, do you think we wouldn't even have to map it if we were able to fully simulate it? Or do you think we would need the mapping to simulate it?
I think you'd have to map it first. And I read like this thing. I don't know if it's exactly the simulation theory, but it was basically like talking about like the ethics of like a completely computer generated AI. So maybe it was like an AI in the video game and how it'd be like just as unethical to kill them because they can like think as much as everyone else can. And I think
Like
that was
Free Guy,
I don't
That-
know what that is, bro.
the movie.
No, I don't
All
watch
right.
that.
Anyway, I'd like to ask Mike
That's
Mike
fair.
this question. How probable do you think it is that we could be living in a simulation right now? Obviously, that's a tough question to answer, but like given what we know about what simulation theory entails, and like how probable is it that we're experiencing something similar, or we could in the future?
I mean, on the one hand, let me just say that like this is like my main areas. I don't know if I have like any real expertise here. Um, but before I answer that question, I know Kai is like really committed to this idea, so like, he like first.
He is.
But what's at stake for you in this like possibility, Kai?
What do you mean at stake? Like,
Like, why does it matter to you? Like, let's say it were true that like we're living in a simulation.
well, the main point for me is like, I guess just the way the thing is like there's not proof that we aren't, or there's not very much. I want to say there's actually no proof that we aren't living in a simulation. And things that are in the natural world, for example, like the superposition of quantum particles, like why does that happen? Why is this particle acting differently when we do not observe it? And then as soon as we observe it, it does something else. That's just like, that seems to not follow the logic of our human minds.
But
Okay.
most,
It's
I
the
feel like,
light moves it.
I feel like
obviously.
most quantum mechanics kind of doesn't follow logic.
And that's what I'm trying to get at. Is that because that's kind of like the simulation at work? Is that because, for example, if you were going to run a simulation, obviously you wouldn't want to have everything being simulated simultaneously. If there's some things that you can have like not existing and existing at the same time to save on like data storage, I would absolutely want to do that.
Just
Kind
like
of
when
how when
you,
you're in a
yeah,
video game, you don't render everything all at once. You render what's in the point of view of the character.
hmm just like in Minecraft, like only the chunks immediately around you will load in. That makes
Oh,
sense.
hey.
I mean, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
I feel like that's just like making up something because we don't understand. Like, if you don't understand why the particles move, I don't think you have to make up a simulation theory to, like, just
You
wait for the
don't.
answer.
Well, I mean, you could
But
say
the issue is there might not be an answer. The simulation theory might be the answer. And
it could.
furthermore,
But
it solves a lot of like philosophical like paradoxes if you just agree with the simulation theory, and it's honestly just I think it's the easiest way to look at the world.
I know, but like, I don't.
Well, that's
It's not
your
like
answer.
falsifiable. Like, you can't like say that it's true. Like, you can't provide any evidence that actually says that it's correct. So I don't know
But
why
you
you
also
would
can't
ever
provide
agree
any
with it.
evidence to say that it's not correct. There's no proof
Isn't
that
that
we
like the
do
thing
or
with like
don't.
the teapot? Like, you can't say that like a teapot floating in space between Earth and the sun doesn't exist, but there's no reason for it to exist, and you can't provide any positive evidence that it does. So what's the point?
Well, let's see, that's the paradox. Like, no one can know right now.
Paradox.
Yeah, well, that's a paradox. Like, there's no way to prove it. There's
it's
no way to
not.
disprove
No,
it.
it's not. No, it's
Can you
not.
disprove it? Can you prove it?
Can you disprove it?
That
Can you
doesn't
prove
mean it's a
that actually
paradox.
leads it to the next question I
Does that
have
mean?
bulleted.
I don't know. I don't think that
Um,
means it's a paradox.
So this is for
Yeah, that's
everybody,
exactly what it means.
including Mike, because I think this is important. If we were in a situation that was some form of a simulation of some kind, how would we figure it out? Like, would it be some kind of deal, just like Neo, like he was the chosen one or whatever? Would it be something like that, or would it just be some random glitch, like that we would encounter in some way, or would we ever figure it out? I don't know.
Actually related to what we were just talking about. Um, and I do have a couple of things to say, but one more question for Kai.
Oh yeah.
What
Yeah.
makes so you gave one reason why like you're interested in this idea. Um, but are there like Logan was asking, are there sort of like aside from explaining certain features of things like quantum mechanics, do you feel like this theory just explains something about like our world or our experience in a better way than alternatives?
I mean, I feel like it does. So, for example, I think it would better explain like the infinite size of the apparent infinite size of the universe, for example. If I know that it is a simulation, like that makes sense that they can always just generate more space. And in our world, like I can't do that. And sure, that doesn't like directly affect my experience, but at the same time, the fact that we are living like the fact that I think that we are living in a simulation makes me feel a little bit more confident about whatever I do. It won't have as large a consequences as outside the simulation. Of course, I don't know if I would like live outside the simulation or not, but the fact that the consequences are not going to be as large helps me.
Okay. Mike, and you said you had other things that you had in mind that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so I guess maybe the thing I can do, um, and this is probably something that, I mean, you guys have heard this before because like I had you in class, right? But
Yeah.
um, well, except for Chase, although Chase is kind of an honorary
In a
student.
way.
Chase was sitting outside, bro.
Um, but I think my only advantage here is this I just have been kind of dealing with these kinds of questions a little bit longer. So I just have more like exposure to it. Um, and so the idea was kind of popularized back in the early 2000s by this guy, Nick Bostrom. Um, and when he proposed the idea, he actually said that he included this notion that we are potentially living in a simulation as one of a couple different possibilities that he thinks at least one of them has to be true. And one of the alternatives is that we as humans will never get to like the advanced stage where we ourselves could create such a simulation. So like the idea was could we ever get to that point? And this is I think where like you, Finn, and Logan were going at the beginning. Is like right now, right? Our current technology isn't very good at doing this. But like in principle, there's no reason why we couldn't get to a point where we could manufacture a really realistic simulation. Um, or we could go extinct before that ever happens. But there's also no reason why some other like advanced civilization couldn't have gotten to that point and created a simulation that is us right now, right? That's kind of Bostrom's hypothesis. And in like the 15 or 20 years since then, there's been a lot of debate between like, computer scientists and physicists and philosophers about this. And one of the things that people use in favor of this thesis is exactly what Kai said. And so it's not just, Logan was objecting that, well, we don't just want to like make up this theory to explain things that we don't understand yet.
Yeah.
But specifically when it comes to like quantum mechanics, for example, do we know like Schrodinger's cat? Like,
Yes.
is it a
Yeah,
live or dead
yeah.
thing?
Oh yeah,
Right? Which is related to the uncertainty principle, right? So like, just in case people listening don't know, right? The Heisenberg uncertainty principle says you can't observe or know a particle's position and momentum at the same time, right? Because to observe it, if you observe its position, then you will change its energy state, right? Because you have to like bombard it with a photon or something like this, right?
Mhm.
For example. Or you can kind of retroactively know kind of where a particle was in the past, but then you have no idea what it's doing currently. And this is similar to Schrodinger's cat, right? The idea is it's not that the cat is either alive or dead before you open the box, but the reality of its being alive or it's being dead doesn't exist until it is observed. Right. And
Yeah,
so like
yeah,
how do you explain that, right? Because like in classical physics you want to say like there's a reality there, right? The cat's in the box, it's either alive or it's dead. Um and you just don't know which one it is until you observe it by opening the box, right?
right.
But the implications of standard model quantum mechanics say no, it is actually neither alive nor dead until it is observed. And so, like, this is
Yeah,
actually why some people are attracted to simulation theory because this kind of explains why that's the case, and it's almost exactly the way Kai said it, right? Like, the reality of that situation doesn't exist until it has to be rendered, right, to be presented to an observer in the first place,
yeah, yeah.
right?
We had this discussion in class at one point, and Kai and I were the only ones that were advocating for this idea that something at least not necessarily. I don't want to say it here because it's a little bit more controversial. That we were basically arguing that something doesn't exist until you look at it, which is not something that's realistic. It
I
was sort of
remember
for
this
the argument.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah. But something, but it is so. What you're implying here is something is like with this theory is that something cannot be not necessarily exist or whatever, but the way that you observe something has an effect on how it actually is or how like its energy or composure is. Is that what this is?
Yeah, something like that. More
Okay.
like you can't separate the observer from the thing being observed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Right, so like there is just no reality out there unless there is an observer, is
Right.
the idea.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way,
Okay.
and there's a precedent for this in the history of philosophy. Like you don't have to, we didn't have to wait for, Nick Bostrom in 2002, 2003. The 18th century philosopher George Berkeley basically had the same idea, right? He actually gave us a slogan, to be is to be perceived, right? That
Okay.
Oh, okay.
just what it means to exist is to be perceived.
Right.
I mean, for Berkeley, what that actually meant was like because he thinks like God exists and God sees everything. It's because God perceives everything that everything exists.
Yeah.
Um, but like my point is like there's a kind of precedent for this idea in Berkeley, and Berkeley himself was inspired by Descartes, who you mentioned, Finn.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to give us that tie-in since you said you wanted to go there.
Yes. Now, I think we definitely should talk about Descartes and like deceiver paradox and
Uh,
dualism and stuff.
why?
But I think Chase, is it time to do our little game of Would You
Yeah, we
Rather, and
can-
then we can touch on that stuff?
We can do some would you
Alright.
rathers.
Okay.
Alright. Alright.
Yeah, cheese.
I'm not doing anything. Guys,
I
are
believe in you.
reading.
I'm on your team. I'm on your
So,
side. We're
first
buddies.
question coming at you is: would you rather be deaf and have no legs, or be blind and have no
What?
arms? It
That's
is noted
awful.
you may
That's
not get prosthetic limbs or corrective surgery.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
So,
Can you read this again?
blind.
Deaf,
Yeah,
wait,
say that
deaf
again.
with no legs, blind with no arms.
Yes,
This
deaf
is
with no
horrible.
legs, blind
This
with
is
no arms.
horrible.
Deaf with no
Deaf
legs.
Deaf with no
No legs.
legs for me.
I think I'm on that one too. I feel like sight
Blind
is
with no
more
arms.
valuable to me.
Yeah.
But how are you
and
gonna-
aren't
how are you gonna-
prosthetics for arms harder to make as well?
Well,
Like
it
Well, they
doesn't
said no
matter.
prosthetics.
It says no prosthetics, so it
Yeah,
doesn't
you
matter.
can't
Oh,
consider prosthetics.
Bro, I
But
want
like, if you're
walk.
blind and you can't like feel
Yeah,
around you,
exactly.
that's terrible.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Like
If
the
you're
only thing you have
deaf-
access to is like
Walking.
music. Like I hate to break it, but like even if you
Kanye
have
West isn't enough for
no
you.
legs and no hearing, like you can still do like video games. You can still take a test. You can still do a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people that with like no legs that they have to live a different life with like different furniture and stuff, but they can still get around with like just their
Oh, yeah.
arms. And then if you're deaf, at least you still have your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe
Exactly.
I'm in that camp then. I don't want to be blind.
No, I would rather not. What about you, Mike? Would you rather be blind or deaf?
First thing for me is that since I'm a musician, it'd be hard for me not to be able to hear.
That's fair.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
But on
I
the
play
other
the guitar
hand,
too, but
There are
I-
deaf
I-
musicians though.
well, there are.
But it's not
like
the same,
Stevie
right?
Wonder. Oh,
Yeah.
He's blind.
No, was
Yes. Yeah, like Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles.
Yeah.
Like they were blind. Beethoven went deaf.
Yeah,
but like
Beethoven is deaf.
But
That's
he
what I
he
was
was,
like.
started
like,
being able to
so-
hear.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he
yeah.
kind of got used to, or he kind of knew what
He
he
could
was
still
doing
hear a
even
little
when
bit, couldn't
was
he?
deaf.
Yeah, he could
Oh.
like hear vibrations and stuff.
Okay.
But also like I feel like I could use my arms to like move a wheelchair. I don't know how I would get around if I was blind.
You'd have a monkey.
Yeah.
Um,
Of pet
You'd
monkey.
you'd have someone to take care of you, dude. You cannot do
You'd
this
have a
by yourself.
monkey.
It was
Yeah,
How
but
do you
you
need-
need you'd need someone to take care of you in both scenarios.
I don't
What
probably.
good is having a
think
monkey if you don't have arms
Not
to be
as-
able to like play with it?
fair point.
The monkey
And you
can like
can't even
whisper in
see
your
it.
ear or something.
You wouldn't be
You
able
could
to.
kick
No,
it and
dude, they're
stuff.
so
I don't-
loud and they're scratchy and hairy and
Logan's
Monkeys are worse
anti-monkey
than
right now,
people.
dude. What is this?
Yeah,
I mean, we
monkey
are also
getting sick.
basically monkeys, Logan. What does that say
Oh,
about us?
Ugh.
well,
Yeah.
that it's better to be less hairy than hairy. So
That's going on the TikTok page, bro.
Okay.
the devil.
Okay,
Okay, move on,
Look,
move on. Next
hold
one.
on. No, you want to know the percentages?
Oh yeah. What was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
answer?
yeah.
80%
we
said they'd
won.
rather be deaf with no legs.
Okay,
Yeah, we
that
won.
makes
I-
that
I
makes
good.
sense.
Okay.
Or it's not winning game, but
Oh, this is interesting. All right. Would you rather find a book about everything about the past or find a book about everything about the future?
Future.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Oh, pass, bro. That'd be so cool to read. Can you
Future.
imagine that?
Well,
Future, bro.
I don't want to know the future, dude.
Well, then
The
you could.
past?
Well, yeah.
the
That's,
past would be
I-
really interesting because nobody can really say for sure about
Exactly.
certain things from the past unless it was like documented by video. But even then, like the specific details of events, there's no way that we
Yeah.
can know certain.
Wait. So what do you want to know, Chase? Like,
have
do you want to know
no-
who shot JFK, or do you want to know like who your
Like,
grandfather
that would
is?
be interesting, but I feel like
I mean, like,
If
'cause
you know
could
how the universe
explore, like,
started, if you knew
his-
everything about
yeah,
the past,
it's true.
that would be cool. I think
That
that
would
You
would
would have a
technically, there's
complete
so much more-
understanding of
yeah.
like the Big Bang.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I'm in that
I-
camp now. You
I
converted
have to
me.
go with past,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
so,
I mean, like,
'Cause what
future would be useful.
Yeah.
But then
got
again, like,
proselytized.
assuming you're reading the book and you're like, and this is things like you can't change, and there's there's things like, let's say there's something bad that happens and you can't physically account for it because it's just gonna
Mhm.
happen anyway. Then it's
Or-
just gonna be like depressing.
like.
And
but
then you
isn't
can-
in the process of reading the book it changes? Like if you read about like how
This
you
question
tripped and
isn't-
stubbed your toe tomorrow, then you
I-
wouldn't trip and stub your toe
So,
tomorrow.
You still
The
would
issue
end
with
up
that-
doing it.
is that this thing doesn't like clarify. I feel like you wouldn't be able to change it though. That would just defeat the purpose.
But also, like, you're gonna live
So then
through
it'd just
the
be
future.
depressing reading that, because if you can't change anything reading the book,
Yeah.
then
I'm
like,
But there's
saying,
also
there's
gonna
no
be
point.
you're gonna
basically.
live through the future anyway, so you're gonna find
Yeah.
out anyway. And even if it is like talking about things after you're dead, you're not even gonna be there to experience it. So like,
True.
Yeah.
what's the point
And
of
if like you
learning
read about
it?
like some good technological breakthrough, but like telling it to a scientist today wouldn't change the future at all, then there's like
Exactly.
no point.
Mhm.
Like you just that would be like worse almost, because you know what's gonna happen.
Like,
You can't do it. Yeah.
If it
That's
was
like a
different
question
and
I don't
like
want
the
that.
things you're reading in the future book were like things that could possibly change, which would defeat the purpose of the question,
Mhm.
then I might lean more towards the future. But since you can't, or it's not implied that you can't, then
What if it's like that's like one possible future, and that's like the entire history of the possible future. But as soon as you start like differing from the path and like acting upon what you learned in the book, then like your future would change, but the book would still be the same. So then you have to like guess if it's still accurate or not.
yeah, that's valid.
I
That's,
think we
but
should do that.
then it's like just defeats the purpose of the book. Like if it's just gonna change if I accidentally don't stub my toe one day. Then-
well,
I think we can just take it to mean like it doesn't change. Like that's just
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
happen.
okay.
Mike, which camp are you in, past or future?
Well, there's actually a movie about this
Really?
from
Yeah.
some, I forget who it is. I think it was Logan who calls Nicolas Cage the best actor of all time. Was that you, Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Have you seen Knowing?
No, I just like watching National Treasure, so.
It's okay, so it's actually even more ludicrous than National Treasure. But the premise of the movie is like Nicolas Cage like discovers. Can I give it away? I guess I should. I have to give it
Spoiler,
away.
Yeah, give it
alert.
away.
Just-
Yeah, so
Spoiler
this
alert
is
for
kind of a
some Nicolas
spoiler,
Cage
but like
movie that no one
it's like the
watches.
most nihilistic movie in, like imaginable because like he figures out that there's this like code that tells like the date of when every like terrible thing is gonna happen, including
Oh.
the end of the world. And like he like figures out that like he knows exactly when the world is gonna end, but there's nothing he can do about it. And that
It's like,
Oh.
to
what's
me
the
it would
point
be
of that?
terrifying because I'm definitely in the whole like I'd rather just know the past camp. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
know.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we're
That's kind of
kinda-
like knowing like when you're gonna die. Like that would be
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yeah, that'd
I
be
would
bad.
rather know. I would if like that's another would you rather question I hear all the time. Like, would you rather know how you're gonna die or when you're gonna die? And I would
Oh,
always
yeah.
choose like how, because then if you know when, then you're just gonna be
No,
like
I would still. I
like
would choose
counting
when.
down the days. Actually,
Yeah,
I think both are
because
bad.
if you
I'd
know
rather know
how,
when.
if you know how, then you're just always going to be scared of
Like, if
that
it's-
certain thing. Like if it's a car
Yeah.
crash,
Mhm.
you're never gonna want to
Yeah,
get in the
you're
car
never
again.
gonna drive again,
If it's
dude.
True.
die in your sleep by a tree falling on you,
Every-
you're constantly gonna be paranoid.
Now, if it's something like really obscure, like a pelican comes and like eats you, like that might be a
Yeah.
little more.
You would never go to the
willing, but-
beach.
I'd love to get eaten by a pelican, bro.
I don't. But see, that's the same thing, because like once you learn about it, like if you can't avoid it at all, I don't think.
Well,
yeah.
well, that's the same thing. Like if you're just counting, like let's say you find out you're gonna die in 14 years or whatever, and you know the date, then you're just gonna be like counting down the days and getting more like
yeah, but you would also
more
be able to.
depressed
You would
and
know
stuff.
exactly
Yeah,
the
but you're
amount of time
prepared
that
for
you
it, you're
have
ready,
to
you're
do
like-
what you want to do. Like
That's
I've
true
had
as
all
well.
this time to accept that I'm gonna die, or maybe it's like tomorrow or something, and then you're like really.
But
That's
then you
like
get to
not
say
ideal,
goodbye to
but-
the people you'd want to say goodbye to. You get to do
Yeah.
the last things that you
Yeah.
want to do.
That's true. How about we just agree that we don't want to know either of them?
No,
What,
bro, I'd
past-
like to know when I
Wait,
die. That'd
back
be
to
cool.
past-
Are you kidding me?
Past or future?
Tell me you never used the little calculator online.
Okay,
that
okay,
tells you
hold
when
on.
and
What's the
past
answer?
if you want to know.
Past
I'm gonna give you the percentages. 24% said they wanted to know about the past.
No
76 wanted to know
way.
about the future, which really surprised
Oh.
me because
Huh.
They
I think the
haven't
thing is
thought this
that
through.
That's
the people that
insane.
answered this
last
probably what?
Wasn't that the last question?
Well, the
We-
next question
Ben
we
was
brought
just
up
made
spiraled-
that other thing.
We
Yeah,
spiraled
I-
into
Yeah,
another
Oh,
one.
sorry,
Uh,
sorry.
So, but like, I think most people probably just didn't think about it as much as we did about how
Yes.
awful it would be to know the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are too enlightened. That's what's
Most-
going on.
Or maybe
Yeah.
we're just wrong.
It's because of Mike. He taught us to be superior, right? Yeah.
Or you could just have more future left than some of us.
Ooh.
For some of us, we don't have a lot of future.
Logan has
Okay.
none left. He's running his
Logan
clock is
is
running
like
out.
Bro,
2
I
years
have a
left,
massive
bro.
future. It's gonna be so fun and cool. I'm gonna be the coolest man ever.
Yeah. All right.
Uh,
See, being
Right.
like Ryuk in Death Note would be fun, knowing when other people are gonna die, but
Yeah,
not
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Like,
That would be nice.
Yo, living in Death Note, best anime to live in for sure.
Don't watch anime. Cool, let's go.
Shut up, Logan.
and you call yourself a nerd, Logan.
Yeah, get
Oh,
out of
I don't
here.
call myself a nerd.
Well, the rest
Yeah,
of us
We'll
do.
do an anime podcast, and Logan we'll
No,
force
we
we'll
won't.
force
Sure.
Logan
Don't
to watch
invite me.
anime.
I'm not watching. I watched
We'll have Mike,
the
we'll have
Titan
Mike
one. I
replace you
watched
then.
2
Watch-
episodes of
Yeah.
Titan, and it was not good, so I quit.
You can watch Sailor Moon or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Moon.
Sailor Moon.
Yeah, sure, bro. Isn't
Can
that
you
one with
imagine?
women? Okay, I'm not watching that.
For the
All right, you know what? Let's just move on to the
Move on.
next Would You Rather.
Move on.
Okay, so I really like this question. Get a free appetizer with every meal or a free dessert with every meal?
Dessert.
Oh, appetizer. Appetizers are also almost so much better. Because, like, think about it. You can go to the melting pot, and technically, the cheese fondue counts as an appetizer, I believe. So, like,
Oh, the deep fried green beans at PF Chang's.
oh, those are good.
I'm
too.
saying appetizer because the thing is, you'll always be hungry for an appetizer, but when it comes time for dessert,
Yes.
you might not be
That's
hungry.
a good idea.
That's fair.
Also,
Yeah.
like
Actually, that's a
dessert,
good
like sweet
point.
foods just aren't as good as the salty good
Well,
ones.
not necessarily. I
savory.
mean, it depends on the restaurant. Like some restaurants are like known, especially for their desserts.
Yeah.
But I feel like
I think Kai has a good
more.
point here.
I
But more
Cheesecake
restaurants just have, like,
Factory.
good
What else are you
appetizers.
including in that, Kai?
what do you mean?
Like restaurants known for their desserts.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have any specific examples, but like
I'm looking
Oh,
it
they're
up
gotta
now,
be out there,
bro.
dude.
Restaurants known
Rosie's
for
Diner.
their dessert. Not
Does milkshake count as a
diner.
dessert?
Yeah, I think a milkshake's a
Yes.
dessert.
Like how we talking like specific ice cream joints or like
Yeah.
Does that
Bl-
count?
no
Because
it
it
doesn't
says
count. It's
after a
gotta
meal,
be,
so you'd have to eat a meal there.
you have to eat
And
a
like,
meal
if you're
there.
going to an ice cream
Well,
shop, they're
no,
not gonna have like
there's this
food.
back where I used to live, there's this place called White Cottage, and they do serve normal food, but they're known for their ice cream. And in like a restaurant like that, I'd want to get the ice cream more than I'd want to get an appetizer.
Yeah, but that's
so, like,
one restaurant in
I'm
Illinois.
just-
Like, come on.
I know I'm not agreeing with the dessert. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. I would definitely take the free appetizer.
I think I
Yeah.
I
would.
think
too.
Kai has the point. Like, there's places where like you go for the pie. You don't go to like
Yeah.
Village
Yeah.
Inn
Oh,
to
Village
get like
Inn.
their pancake.
Yeah, bro. It's the pies. I'm saying there's a place. What is it called, man? There's a place nearby. It doesn't matter what it's called, but they have like really good cake, and no one goes there for the food. Like my friends once went there and got like 2 chicken wings just so that they could have a meal and then get dessert. So there's places like that, but if you're talking like in general, I would be in the appetizer
Oh, yeah.
camp.
Yeah, but
So
like
now,
Kai, like you said, you're like, I feel like you're always gonna be hungry for an appetizer. Like dessert,
Oh,
you might
no
not
doubt.
always want. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
like, bro, imagine being able
Very
to like
cool.
go to Outback and just get a free bloomin' onion every time, bro.
Never been there. Honestly, sounds disgusting.
I
I'm
don't
vegan,
want to.
by the
I
way.
don't want to talk to you. What? Logan, it's an onion.
Steakhouse? Are you kidding me? You have to eat a meal there. What do you think they're gonna serve?
You can eat like a vegan.
Potatoes?
Yeah, potatoes.
Okay, okay, Logan.
Percentages.
so-
Let's go.
Yeah, this is really awful. 38% said they only wanted the appetizer. 62 wanted the dessert.
because I feel like
Which
just
just-
off the top of your head, you think
Dessert.
sweetness, like you know what I mean. You
Yeah.
want what?
Well, honestly, the
yeah.
thing is, unless they were like eating this right before, or like doing this poll right before a meal, they probably like most recently ate a dessert too. So like, they'd have
Yeah.
dessert on their mind.
Oh, bro. Last thing I ate was a fig bar. Is that a dessert? Fig bar?
Yeah, it was. It's
No.
a dessert.
I don't think a fig
Well,
bar is a
Fig
dessert.
bar.
Is
A
this,
meal
is,
of carrots and fig bar?
I think Logan, you should refuse to eat any food that does not have your name etched into it from now on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I'm gonna get Kai's dad to etch all of my name into all the foods, and then that's it.
That's it.
No, I give it to my. I need to hire a nutrition planner, and then they have the laser engraver, so I can only eat what they engrave for me.
like a piece of broccoli.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I just
And,
want a
like-
piece of broccoli for a meal, but
Wouldn't it just be called your
Oh, my.
mom?
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good point too. No,
Oh.
unfortunately,
No. Your mom.
See what I did there, Logan?
Your
Turned it back on
mom,
you.
your mom.
Okay,
Alright,
do we want to do one more
let's do
question
one
or
more.
go back?
One more.
Yeah, I did
Oh,
one
wow.
more question.
Oh,
Okay,
my
so
bad.
would you rather have an incredibly nice car or own a personal helicopter?
Now
Car.
I don't even know how to fly a helicopter. You
Car.
have to pay for all that expensive helicopter stuff and the pilot.
I don't really
I
care.
want-
I don't care.
Or you
for
could
either,
fly yourself.
but-
Come on.
That takes a long time, and honestly,
I don't want to
think
be
I
in a
wanna-
helicopter, bro. I don't trust myself.
And they're
in
so
a
loud.
helicopter.
Like,
well,
when are
okay,
you gonna use that?
if you
When
have a
are you gonna use
helicopter,
personal
either
helicopter?
you learn to fly it, which I don't trust myself to fly a helicopter, or you have to hire somebody. And I'm not about to spend
Exactly.
money on such for someone to take me in a helicopter. I'd rather just have
And you
a
know how
good working car.
expensive helicopter fuel is? Like, are you kidding me? That's like a money sink. Like, you're already driving a car, most likely. So just get a
Are we
nicer
talking
car
like
for
those?
free.
Are we talking like those heavy duty military grade helicopters that can carry
Any
you across the
helicopter is
ocean?
gonna be expensive.
doesn't
Any
sound-
helicopter.
Listen, if I have a helicopter, I'm trying to go to Siberia. I'm trying to go to Africa,
Why would you
bro.
want to go
I'm
to
trying
Siberia?
to go.
I'm
trying to go
Okay.
all over the
Here's the
place,
argument
bro.
for the helicopter. The only reason you get the helicopter is A, you already know how to fly it and are rich enough to get all the fuel.
So,
or B,
now, Logan,
you want to
don't-
sell it.
I just looked it up, right? The
Okay.
national average cost to get your own private helicopter's pilot license is $13,000. Now that might sound like a lot of money, but like
It's not that bad, actually. It's
over like
reasonable.
many years of being able to fly, like not ever having to take an airplane, you can just use your helicopter to get there. You might like start to actually like save a lot of money at that point.
I'm
Is that gonna be cheaper, though?
saying.
But what if you don't travel?
Now,
what if
yeah,
you don't use
obviously.
weapons at all?
Then don't do car.
I'm vegan. I don't want to kill the.
In my case, I want to have a
That's
car. Like that's just I like cars, so.
Mike, are you car or helicopter, man?
I could have a Mustang, bro. Actually, I couldn't because
You would choose a
This guy's gonna be
Mustang.
snowy. Yes, they're so cool, bro. Coolest car
Have a
ever. I
car.
don't even care
You
about
could-
all
I'd
the
probably
other
get take the
cars.
helicopter.
Yes, that's right, baby. We got cars
Why?
already. Yo, he's trying. Are
Yeah.
you a travel? Are you a travel boy? Do you like to travel?
I used to be.
Okay.
Not anymore.
Before COVID.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Well,
not
I'm
even
not.
because of COVID. I'm just old now, so I don't do
Oh
anything.
no. Uh-oh. We're gonna have
Okay.
to
Well,
put you in the
at
ground
least
soon.
at least he.
Was that a threat, Logan, or was that a promise?
Oh my goodness, Logan.
Oh,
Wow.
Logan, wild, bro. Get this. What yeah. Helicopter is the best, bro. Don't think about all the accidents that happen with helicopters, bro. I'm not trying.
If Tom Cruise can fly a helicopter, you can, Finn.
That's right. I'm taller than Tom Cruise, so I can.
Yeah, because he's like, how short is he?
He's like 5'6", and I'm 6 foot, so I can.
He
I
is
can
not
smoke him.
5'6". Come
Yeah,
on.
he's pretty short. That sounds
Yeah,
right.
I'm looking it up.
Okay.
No, that is not right. 5'6" is like,
How tall is Tom Cruise?
5'7".
that means he's at
5'7".
least 5'10". Oh,
Look,
what?
the facts are
5'7".
there, dude.
I'm
They
taller
really
than
cast
Tom
him as
Cruise.
Jack Reacher, and who's
Does that
like
mean I'm
described as
better
like
than him?
6'2" giant guy, and they cast him as Jack Reacher, bro. He's 5'7" and like small.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
All right,
Anyway.
so the percentages here: 52%.
Stop watching movies, Logan.
I
No,
don't
he watches
know. Not really.
exclusively Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. No, I actually don't watch Nicolas Cage. I don't really watch movies. My bad. I still need to see Spider-Man and Dune. So
My
that's
bad.
on my bucket list.
Okay, all right.
And the Terminator, even though it was bad.
What?
The new one was supposed to be
Oh,
bad.
the new
Oh,
one.
the
Okay,
new
I thought you were
one.
talking about like the OG Terminator. I was about to start.
No, I
like,
watched that one. I watched that
Okay,
one. That's so
thank
cool.
you, thank you.
What were the
50
percentages, Kai?
52% said they wanted a car. 48% said they wanted a helicopter.
Close,
I think-
close.
Oh, you're in the minority, Finn.
Nah, it's
Get off.
whatever.
How's it feel?
It's
So,
fine. At least minority has big brain here,
No.
Oh.
and I'm very
Finn,
happy.
you will
to
die
say-
in like 2 weeks. You will like.
Oh, I'm so good.
You'll fly over
Oh,
Korea and they will shoot you down.
That's
Why would you
probably
fly
true.
to Korea, bro? What is it that you want?
Korean
and
food
I'm-
is
my
good.
bad. I'm
Korean
sorry,
food is so.
but-
They film a Squid Game in Korea. Okay, I'm trying to go there.
Yeah, and it was about how Korea's not good.
Oh,
You're
Are
gonna
you
like.
kidding
You're
me?
gonna.
What?
Finn, you're gonna
It was about
accidentally.
how they picked up poor people off the streets that were literally.
You're
That was South
Going to-
Korea. I'm trying to go to North Korea.
Finn, you're gonna like fly over like a war zone on accident and just be like.
I don't think
taken
you
I'm
can
gonna
down.
go
fly a
over-
helicopter from America into North Korea. Like you can
I'll
get
fly
into
over
North Korea,
Area
but not the
51.
helicopter from America. Alex,
A
you're
flight
gonna find
over
that
Area
helicopter
51.
there, dude. That helicopter is not gonna make it across the Pacific.
No way. Okay, now let's make our smooth, seamless transition back into the main topic, and we'll talk a little bit about Descartes and Cartesian dualism. So, Mike, can you give us a little bit of an outline of what exactly Cartesian dualism is?
Why is this my job? Oh wait, I guess it is
Yeah,
literally
that's
my
you.
job.
Yes,
It's your
your
job.
So I mean, in a way, I guess Descartes was one of the first people who gave us something like a simulation hypothesis, right? So um, he famously tried to argue that, it is not impossible or inconceivable that, we could, for example, all be living in a collective dream or even in an illusion, right, created by some deceiving demon or god or something like this. Um, and in that situation, Descartes argues that, well, if this is a simulation or an illusion, then all physical reality is potentially not real. And so, like, my physical body is not real. I'm not actually sitting in this chair in front of my computer talking to you guys. Um, but I'm being made to think that all this is happening. Sort of like in the Matrix, right? When you think you are living your life, when really all that's happening is your brain is being stimulated to make you perceive things. And in that situation, Descartes reasons that, okay, if that were true, then my body isn't real, but my mind has to be. Because if I didn't at least have a mind, then I couldn't be deceived in the first place. Right? So the dualism that Finn was referring to says that therefore your mind must be something apart from and separate from your physical body.
Yeah,
Is that good for what you want, Finn?
of course. That's perfect. I think that there's a lot. Let's see, the dual split experiment. That's what he did to come to his conclusion. Like that was what he did in his. Was that what he did in his
No, I
meditations?
think
That was
you're thinking,
not.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was
you're
okay.
thinking
not.
of something else there. That's the
Okay.
Michelson-Morley physics experiment.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So then, what he did in his meditations though was when
Uh-huh.
he had that thought experiment where he removed all things that he could assume about
Yeah,
life and went down to what he the two things that he could know, which were that he exists and that he was a thinking being. Is that correct?
right. Yeah, like an
Okay.
immaterial mind. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I guess my this is sort of like a really big and encompassing question, but my biggest question I think that we could discuss here is that like what was useful about like the Cartesian approach? Like what how did it contribute to how the general public looks at life and how it looks at um our like creationism and things like that. So
See me, or are you asking the group?
just the group
Creationism,
and
bro.
everybody.
Well, I don't know. How
Uh,
does creationism have anything to do with that?
I mean,
Well, maybe I can fill that in before um, Chase chimes in. So, like Descartes himself argued that not only that that his mind is the only thing he can be certain exists, but the main point of the meditations was to argue that God exists, and specifically a creator God. And the
oh,
reason why we can trust our minds is because God is not a deceiver, and gave us the ability to understand the world.
Okay.
So, like, that's the link, I think, for Descartes at least, is that, like, because we know that there has to be an immaterial God that exists, that wouldn't create us and it wouldn't deceive us, then that gives us, like, a kind of security and foundation for, like, our faith in not only the world, but our knowledge of the world.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So what else did you have queued, Kai? Because there was other stuff
I
that you
thought
had in
Chase had
mind.
a
Oh,
thought.
Oh
Chase.
no, I was just stretching. My bad.
oh, okay. Well, I mean, we can actually talk about the double split experiment that Finn was referencing. I mean, it basically just follows more quantum physics. How if you shoot a photon through two slits, like onto a photon detector, they will, if you're observing them, they will behave differently versus when you're not observing them. Like when observing them, they'll just go straight through and hit right where you shot them at. And then when you're not observing them, they will kind of like ripples in the water, they will form waves that like actually have wave interference with each other. And even when you launch the photons one at a time, independent of each other and don't observe them, the wave still happens, which is really interesting. That even when they are launched independently of each other, they still create this wave and wave interference.
Like so, regardless of whether there's an observer or not.
Well, no, if there is an observer, they will act, they will just go to where you shoot them. But if there's no
Okay.
observer, they will have a wave.
Is the observer
To
like a
them.
person?
It can, I mean, yeah, it's
Like, what
pretty
if it was
lim-
like a security camera? Like, would
Yeah,
it
that's what I was
still?
Yeah,
wondering.
that actually counts. Like
I mean, it
if
kind
any,
of has to
because
be.
anything
Yeah,
that
observer is
so
a better word there. A
Well,
measurer is better than an observer.
yeah,
Oh,
measure
okay,
then. So like but like the way that we're able to observe the waves is that the particles are not actually being like measured, they just hit something that changes when photons hit it. But like if we had a security camera recording it, it would change how they act. Even if nobody looked at the security footage themselves, the fact that the security camera did and picked up data there changed the course of the photons.
Yeah, but how does the photon like know that it's being observed?
That's just
That's
well,
the interesting thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing we don't know.
That's it. What do you know? What do you know about it, Mike? Or do you? Is this news to you? Because I never heard any of this before.
Well, it's actually it's related to the other thing we were talking about.
Okay.
The Schrodinger cat thing. Like there's a way in which like the electron like chooses quote unquote like which split it goes through. Um, but you can also see what Kai's talking about with like the particle wave duality is that it can apparently be or go through both slits simultaneously, right? Kind of be in
Okay.
two places at once. And like that's another one of those weird quantum properties that like quantum particles apparently can exist in more than one location simultaneously.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard of like the thing where there's a version of a particle which exists that's reliant on an observer. Like that's the extent of what I know about this. And yeah.
I think quantum
So
mechanics in general is just really interesting.
yeah, like
Maybe we shouldn't look at it at all.
all I've ever seen about like quantum mechanics, I have never looked into this myself at all. But like, and I have no idea if this is like an accurate depiction at all. But the only things I've seen are from like the Ant-Man movies when he shrinks down and there's like these floaty things.
I
How
don't think that's
accurate
right,
is
dude.
that? Yeah, like cause I was gonna ask because like
There are
that's
not
crazy.
whole worlds that can sustain little people life on them.
Right.
Yeah, man, that's disappointing. Well,
You know, Marvel isn't scientifically accurate, bro.
Wow, that
I know.
that
Star
is
Trek is,
news.
though.
very sad.
So to keep talking, just one more
Actually-
thing. I don't exactly remember how it goes, but it's something how like when you take data from a so if there's when particles are quantumly entangled, basically when you know the position of one, you know the position of other, like another one.
Okay.
And I think
I'm
I'm not sure if I'm getting this 100% right, but what happened is they observed a quantum particle on a hard drive, and then they knew the state of the other particle, right? But or they would know that the state, like what the state of the other particle would be. But then when they destroyed the hard drive and thus like the proof of it ever being observed, the other particle that we initially knew its position, it went back into superposition after like the proof of it being observed was destroyed, which was I'm not exactly
Whoa.
sure if that's how it goes, but I think I remember seeing something similar to that, where
That's kinda
like
crazy.
if the proof is gone, it's like it changes things, which is really
Wait,
weird.
so does that work also like if it were like if something was captured on like security camera or something and the data is collected through the camera and isn't it doesn't even necessarily have to be then seen like the recording doesn't have to be then seen by an actual human being, But like, let's say that that recording was deleted and there was like no data left about that incident. And there was nothing else that has recorded it. Would it go back to his superposition? Is that does that
I
do you think that
I'm
works that
not
way
a
too?
full expert, but I would imagine probably.
That's crazy.
That
Assuming
seems
that
a little phony, dude. I mean, like, there's no way a little tiny particle knows that it's being recorded on a camera.
I think it's
Well,
look. I think
Like,
it's
no
less
shot.
that the particle itself knows what's
Yeah.
going on. It's just that the energy which exists while it's being observed by something is changes its superposition. Not necessarily the particle is thinking like nothing is looking at me right now, or like oh I'm
Well,
being
I know
observed.
that.
Oh.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying, I
I know,
know
I
that.
know.
But, like, there's so many, like, what if you, like, draw a picture perfect drawing of the particle? And then, is that the same thing as being observed?
I don't think you could draw. I don't think you could draw a picture
Well,
perfect.
Logan, you can't draw. So, I mean, if you tried to draw the particle while it was in superposition, your picture would both exist and not exist simultaneously.
Well,
because
also,
that's
I
kinda how
think
it
if you try
is.
to draw a picture perfect representation of something that you have never seen before,
You would have
you
had to
wouldn't
have
be able to
observed it.
do it anyway. You would have to have observed it at least once.
Yeah,
Well, I
and
know,
then
but
if
I'm
like
saying, like, okay, no, like, do the thing that Kai's talking about. Like, take a picture, put it on the hard drive, have that picture open, and then, like, draw that perfectly. Like, which isn't possible, but let's say it is. You draw it perfectly, and then you destroy the hard drive. Did it still revert back to the position?
I think
You're
I think you're.
you
I
guys are
don't.
kind of confusing two things here, though.
Oh,
So
oh
quantum
no.
entanglement, it says that two quantum particles um, are related in such a way that the state of one necessarily affects the state of the other.
okay.
Okay.
That's all quantum entanglement says.
Oh.
So
So that
Logan, I
yeah.
think yeah, I think Logan, what you're saying is more like if you could create like a picture perfect exact replica of the particle, how do you know that it's not being like the original particle is not being observed? Is that what you're saying?
I guess so.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
like
this
it's
may
not.
have been more with the photon
It's
thing, where it like changes
regardless
based
of
on whether
whether
it's
it's
observed or
like
not.
regardless of whether that manufactured particle is the exact same like in likeness and in at every perceivable quality, it's still not the original particle.
Yeah, it's
So
not
I
the
don't
same
think
thing.
it's not like regardless of how close it is, regardless of like it can be equated at the exact same atomic weight in the exact same this and this and that, and all things that you can perceive, all senses that perceive it say that they're the exact same particle. They're still two different particles. Like that, that's
Okay.
unavoidable.
Okay.
So I think that's your
Or
answer
I
to
guess another
that
example
question.
would be like if Kai made a perfect replica of himself. That's not gonna be. That's not a second Kai. Kai is still himself, and then he's just.
Oh, then this
Some-
is like the boat. Remember?
Yeah, it's like the boat, and I was just about
What?
to shoot that off to Mike. Remember the boat thing from class, Mike? Tell us about the boat
No,
thing.
wait, I don't even remember this. What happened when I was gone?
Actually, a better example of that would be going back to Star Trek. Like there's all those episodes, right, where like someone gets transported, but their pattern like gets stored in the transport buffer, and then like they materialize another
Yeah.
person from that same pattern.
Yeah.
That's
You
probably a
die
better
every time
example.
you go on the transporter.
Okay, so like what I remember from the boat thing from class was like if you take the piece of this boat and attach it to this boat,
Oh
and
wait,
then
I remember.
a piece of this boat and
Yeah,
attach
shove
it
the
again to this
pieces.
boat. At what point does the new boat or the boat that's being affected? At what point does that become not the same boat? Is that's what
Yeah,
I'm
I guess.
remembering.
And I'm laughing at the fact that Chase is like rolling his eyes about this when he wasn't
I
even
remember
technically in the
this. You
class.
guys went on about this for like the entire class period.
Oh, it was a good. It was a good
It was
discussion.
good.
It was a good one.
Except, I think no, never mind.
What were you gonna say, Logan? We value your opinion.
Okay. What if I know I said this in class and know I got stumped after I said it, but like what if you just said that after half of the planks on the boat have been replaced by new planks that weren't the original, couldn't you just say it's not the same boat at that point and then you win?
Well, that's
But
the
then there would be
question. I'm
two.
like,
There would be two boats that are 50% complete, and they both can't be the same boat.
No,
exactly right.
it's all the way complete.
Well, if
What?
it's all the way complete, then
Then
like
it's
if
It's all the way.
if the boat has been completely replaced by the parts from the other boat,
Yep.
I would argue that it's a different boat. But it can also be argued that like
it's the same boat.
the
Can't.
essence
No,
of the
it can't.
boat. Well, I think
That's
it
not a thing.
I think it can be argued that the essence of the boat, like let's say you had no idea, like let's say your boss, who's the foreman of the boat, right? He was the one that was changing all the parts, and you had no idea that the boat was you, a crew member of the boat, had no idea that the boat was being changed. If you're on the boat, you're like, "Yo, this is the boat," but the foreman is like, "No, it's not because I replaced every single piece."
It doesn't matter
But-
whether you think it is or not. The matter in the boat is completely different than
Well,
what it
that's-
used to be.
Yeah, but is the essence different? You know what I'm saying? Like, is the belief surrounding that boat different than it
And-
was before?
Well, if the
Depends on the
belief
person.
is
And Logan, even
Yeah,
if it is a
that's- I would
different
agree with
boat,
Jason.
when is the turning point? Is it 50%? Is it 70% replaced? Like, what is the
what if you
percentage?
just say it's the first whenever it changes, even slightly, one new speck of dust on the boat means it's a completely different boat.
But
what
that's
if you
just
just say
not.
that
That's not practical. Being
That's
able,
not
like,
practical.
every single moment in time, it would be different because,
yes.
like, it would move. Like, that's just not practical, though. And
But
sure,
what
we
if
can
it's the correct answer?
we could say it at
How do
that,
you
but
feel
then
about that?
how
What if
specific are we
Kai's
going?
thumb
Is it-
was the correct
is-
answer?
There's always the correct answer.
But then
in my
you never
opinion.
have the same boat, so you can't like refer to that as a boat. You could just refer to that as an ever-changing object.
which
Yep.
isn't useful.
I mean,
like, it's-
Just
to
not
be
useful.
technically correct, that's like right. Like it's not
Okay.
convenient.
You're right. I think I agree with Logan. It's not convenient. It probably is the best way to describe this, but it's just not convenient. Like, every single time I look at my phone, it's not the same phone. It's like, oh, there's my phone. Oh, there's my phone.
Yeah.
Oh, look at my
that's
phone,
gonna
it's
spike
changed
Thinking
again.
about it at all isn't convenient either. So like, don't
Well,
think.
then, see, I think we
Or
kind
just
of
don't
rabbit
think.
holed there.
Oh,
But-
100%. I don't remember
Yeah,
what
but
we were
that-
actually talking about.
That was
We were
that was a
talking
good
about,
discussion.
Quantum
I think we can.
mechanics.
I think we
To
can
be fair-
conclude.
Collude.
Collude. Now, to be fair, Kai and Logan, David Hume and Friedrich Nietzsche both endorse your position.
Yeah.
That in reality, nothing ever stays the same, but it's just because of like our human need to like kind of just practically get along in the world that we say like this is the same thing.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I like it. There is the right
Alright.
answer always.
So what is that?
I didn't say they were right. I just said that that's their position
Oh, yeah.
and that they would
They are
agree with
backing
you.
it.
Yeah.
They're backing it up. It doesn't make sense because like it really like defining something as a thing or like with a name is a very human thing. Like it's something doesn't come into existence to be a computer. It just is dubbed a computer by humans. For you probably just noticed that cut. If you're seeing this, that means we figured out the technical issue we just had. But we were going to be wrapping up anyway. So we're gonna call it here, and we're going to give our very heartfelt, thankful thanks to our esteemed guest Mike from the philosophy department of X school we won't mention. So thank you so much for
It's really good.
attending our third podcast ever, Mike. And
To
we hope to have you again. And I hope all the viewers had a great time. Those of you that are listening on Spotify and Anchor, thank you for listening to our beautiful voices. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, thank you for watching our beautiful faces. Thank you so much, everybody. Peace.